hand over the call. Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you all for attending again today. Mr Burgess, you said in your opening statement, Australia is the target of sophisticated and persistent espionage and foreign interference activities from a range of hostile foreign intelligence services, and I take it they use a range of means of doing so.
Correct.
Is there a Chinese Communist Party supported contact point in Sydney?
I'm not aware of that.
It's been reported in the media, I understand.
I see many things in the media, but I let the data that we have available to us determine that. And I wouldn't comment on operational matters, but I'm not aware of that in the context of that media reporting.
So you're not aware of how long it's been in operation or what its purpose is?
You're assuming it's true. We will investigate things that are associated with acts of foreign interference, but I won't bring colour to them in a public hearing.
Are there Chinese police officers working out of premises in Sydney?
Not that I'm aware of.
So are there operations of interest to our security agencies?
If there was anyone here who was engaged in acts of espionage or foreign interference, that would be of concern and something that we would investigate.
What about potential breaches of Australian national sovereignty?
Again, anything that's a threat to security, my agency will investigate.
Well, what about Chinese citizens or Chinese people living here in Australia? Should they be concerned?
Senator,
you would protect them even though they may not be Australian citizens?
Anyone in this country is free to be here, assuming they're on a valid visa, of course, or a citizen or permanent residence, and there are no concern to us unless they're engaged of matters which are prejudicial to security, in which case we would show an interest in them.
Individual security as well as national security?
Well, national threats to security is what ASIO worries about, Senator.
Okay. So you're not aware of people operating from this contact point. Do they have any contact, so you wouldn't know whether or not they have any contact or influence with Australian Chinese residents or Chinese visa holders?
Senator, again, I don't comment on specific operational matters, but I will say this, because I've said this publicly before. The threat of espionage and foreign interference is a real threat in this country. It is our principal security concern. It comes from a range of countries, and I think it's unhelpful for me to call out specific countries, and in particular, when we talk about the vast range of diaspora communities in this country, the members of those communities are not the problem. It's the foreign government and the foreign intelligence services that will be the focus of myself and my agency.
Well, the Chinese Communist Party itself has belted our country economically. So, what Australian overview of agencies that operate in this country is there for premises like the supported contact point in Sydney?
Again, Senator, I don't comment on specific matters, but if we have a need to investigate things that may be of concern in relation to security, things that could be used as platforms for espionage or foreign interference, I can assure you my agency will be on it and investigate it. And I can assure you we had a very productive year last year removing espionage and foreign interference problems from this country.
And you may or may not be able to tell us about those operations depending upon the circumstances, is that correct?
I wouldn't talk about them publicly in detail, Senator.
Okay. Let's move on to a topic, series of very short questions on a topic that was underway in last Senate estimates in this room as I was asking the questions, but it was denied. What are the costs, and that was the ISIS brides that were brought back. What are the costs to Australia of bringing these women and children to Australia?
The repatriation was not a matter for ASIO. We gave advice on the individuals, but beyond that you'd have to pass that question to others.
Okay, thank you, Mr Burgess. What security measures are to be taken to keep Australian community members safe? Because these people have been part of some radical terrorist groups and associated with them.
The only comment I'd make there, Senator, is that ASIO gave security advice to government, and in particular security assessments on all individuals that returned. And that was our job.
So what was that again? You assessed them?
So we did security assessments on returning individuals, and they returned, and that's okay.
Are any of these women currently wives or partners or sisters of terrorists?
I won't go into specific matters, Senator.
Are they genuine refugees?
they're Australian citizens who have returned home.
Given their recent social circumstances, are any of these people going to need de-radicalisation programs?
Again, I wouldn't comment on that publicly, Senator.
How many of the women have been charged with terrorism-related offences?
I'm not law enforcement. I'm aware of the one charge, but you should speak to the AFP about that.
Okay, thank you.
We do, Senator Roberts, if it assists, we do have the AFP a little bit later today who can answer some of those questions for you.
Given that most of the husbands and children's fathers have been killed by Western soldiers, how traumatised and angry are they when you assess them?
I can't speak for how they're feeling.
No, but you would be aware surely of their potential threat.
I said we did security assessments on all the individuals, and anyone who falls into the category that believes that violence is the answer would be subject to my agency's inquiry and investigation.
So is there ongoing support to be provided, and what is it?
Again, that's not a matter for my organisation, other than we will continue to watch anyone that is a threat to security, but I'm not making any comment on these individuals. Given the children's exposure, you may not be able to answer this, but I'm guessing you would know the answer because that would form part of your assessment of terrorism threat. Given the children's exposure to violence, either as victims or perpetrators, what are the plans for their assimilations, and did you make any comments about what was needed? So again, that question is best put to others in Home Affairs and more broader. Thank you. Do you work in providing a diagnosis and recommendations? Does your agency work in providing a diagnosis and recommendations? On individuals or children? On treatment of people to make sure that they don't violate our standards of behaviour. No, we're not involved in that. We talk about the security threats people might face, and others worry about what treatments might be needed, if any. So you do interact. So the people, if you can see a potential threat, you pass it on to someone. You don't just. We're part of a broader apparatus that helps counter terrorism in this country. Yes. Thank you. I see Mr. Pazzulu nodding in agreement. Have the communities where these people are to be housed been fully consulted? I guess that's for other people to comment. Not a question for me, Senator. Does your assessment of the threat include any consideration to family members here in Australia whose friends or family members have been killed by ISIS terrorists? Do you consult with the community in which they're going to be placed? No, we're not involved in that consultation of where they get placed. Okay. Will the families be housed together or apart? Again, I can't answer that question. I was thinking more from the security point of view. Well, no, that's irrelevant. They're Australian citizens. They're entitled to be where they want to be unless there's some legal condition on them, but I'm not law enforcement. So would you be monitoring them more closely if they're living closely together? We will monitor anyone that we deem to be a threat to security. Okay, so that wouldn't be part of your recommendations to keep them separate in this country? No, we're not in that space. Okay. Just a final question, Chair, on violence. Does violence include destroying artworks, interrupting everyday Australians, destroying roadworks? And I note that left-wing extremism in the 20th century killed 120 million people. I presume you monitor all types of extremism. We'll monitor any individuals that have an ideology that thinks violence is the answer. Thank you very much, and thank you for your clear statements opposing violence. Thank you, Chair.